Each of these.
Oh, right, yeah, the barracks were all two-story.
See, there's some more down here too.
So you feel like the two-story buildings in that area were barracks?
That's barracks.
And the one-story could have been something else?
Each one of these was for that row
Right.
of barracks, huh?
I
Something
think
like
these,
that, or so many of them.
let's see. There's about 8 there almost, I think, which about 2 companies was there. And see, there's a mess hall on this end,
Yeah.
mess hall on
Oh,
this end.
okay.
Oh,
So they were all
these
lined
you can
up.
see they're lined up down there.
yeah.
So these was where all the,
See, and there's a mess hall
soldiers and
there.
everything
So
stayed,
in between
mostly.
those, there looks like a row for each,
Well,
two
this-
mess halls.
And so this area, I keep saying, was where most of the main things was,
I
like their
think you're right.
theaters, their theaters.
Yeah.
I think you're
The
right.
guest room was there,
Mhm.
and, I can't see it on here, but they
Recreation, would it have been?
recreation,
would have
all
been
of
up
that
in
was in
there?
this area here.
Hmm.
And you know, the crown commander of the post, his house was down in that area too.
So that's what I was gonna ask you, the commander was somewhere over here too?
His home, he had a home there,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a few other officers that lived there.
Did they
also.
ever have wives there, or they did? They
They-
were
they-
allowed to bring their wives?
Yeah, they had their
command?
families right there with them.
Okay. Let's see. I have another question about the prison. Oh, you're saying that there were, you told me earlier that there were 2 distinct kinds of prisoners.
Yes, ma'am.
We first talked about the trustee, I think what you've been describing before, the ones that were allowed to have their own place.
They were, yes, those wasn't really, that's the one that I'm talking to that was kept in a compound that went out on the work details.
Right.
Those, they was considered prisoners because they was behind the wire fences and everything like that with guards.
But their barracks would have looked pretty much like the
Their
American
barracks looked
soldier.
just like the ones the soldiers it was in.
Now, we had another kind of German also. Can you tell me about them?
I don't know, I can't see the area that they was in. But
That's
since I
okay.
talked to you last, I remember the man that run all the prison details. His name was Captain Jerome.
Captain Jerome, G-E-R-O-M-E?
Yeah.
He was a full army man. He was not just he wasn't no recruit. He came there to do that job,
Did nothing but run the prisons.
run the prison, and he was a Filipino.
Oh, really?
And he was the right man to handle that job because they couldn't pull no tricky business with him
Ah.
because he knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he handled
All
all
of
the
them.
prisoners. He was in charge of these ones that, you know, went out on the work deal, which didn't give nobody no trouble.
Right.
The ones that give them trouble was the one in the brig. Well, that the Navy called it the brig.
The brig. The Navy called it the brig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Army probably called it the South Navy.
yeah, that's what the Navy called it.
Okay,
I'm not familiar with Navy prisoners.
okay.
I'm only
I understand you also visited this brig. Am I correct?
I've worked in it before.
Yeah. And what were those guys like? And would it be fair to say that they were the hardcore, they
They're
were the
hard.
SS?
They were, yes,
the
ma'am, they were
the
hardcore.
Nazis?
And before the other prisoners left, they got rid of those hardcore. They got rid of them.
And where did they send
They
them?
went to another camp in Texas somewhere.
And didn't you tell me they built one camp for all of those hardcore, that it wasn't just Camp Wallace, but they...
Yeah, somewhere in Texas, they had one for those kind of prisoners. It was strictly
For those
for
times,
those die-hard Germans, I call them.
die-hard Germans.
That's what I call them.
Yeah, that
SS
sounds...
troopers.
What were they like? What kind of bad things did they do?
Well, ma'am, there wasn't too many things too bad that you do in this. This was a heavily wired,
Right.
very well wired all over with pieces way up over the top and everything. And double.
They couldn't
double.
go far. They couldn't go far, and they couldn't do much.
No, they couldn't do much. They had, this was a double. It had a walkway all the way around it. And it was double right there where a guard walked, just in an area.
Uh-huh.
He walked in there all the time. And then they had a guard on each 4 corners, was up on a high raise, you know, where they
Watching
could,
them.
yeah,
Oh,
where
they
they
were-
could overlook them. And then, when they was in this compound, whatever, Navy called it, I can't think what the Army used to call it, stockade. The Army calls it stockade.
Right, right.
So, anyway,
Somebody else that they're working with it here. Somebody else that came through that said that they were called, these hardcore Germans, committing murder. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know of any murders being committed in Camp Wallace.
Mhm.
It might have been,
Mhm.
you
But
know,
you
I
weren't
don't
aware
know,
of it.
I don't know of anything that they've done there, but
But they were talking that these murders were committed, the hardcore, you know, it was among
Among
Germans.
themselves.
Among Germans,
Yeah.
yes. I just wondered if you remember.
that's why they
anything
had
about
to try to get them separated.
That's very
You know,
likely,
to get-
yeah.
They couldn't keep them separate with these other prisoners, because they probably, maybe there were some murders there,
You just didn't know
I
about it.
didn't know about it.
What,
They probably didn't want everybody to know everything that went
well,
on,
of course not.
so.
It just happens. You never know, you know. Okay, when you worked in that area, can you kind of describe their cell, what it was like? You said you were right in there.
Well, they had some of the cells there that was solitary confinement. It was nothing but just one small box, room with no windows, one door. You know where they entered,
Uh-huh.
with a mattress on the floor and bathroom facilities.
And that was it.
That was it.
Hmm.
And then I think, I understand they was given a chance to take a bath once a week with a guard
Present.
over them.
When you were in that area, was there somebody with you at all
Yes,
times?
ma'am, a guard was with us at all times. That's the only way we went in there,
Mhm.
for the guard.
Mhm. Mhm. But this was a far cry from those other prisoners that were allowed to cook their own food.
Oh, yeah.
And have their flower boxes.
This was just prisoners they couldn't do anything with.
Were you nervous when you were in there?
Yeah, I was kind of nervous when I went in.
I bet.
I didn't work in there too often, but, you know, when the repairs came along, they sent somebody to do it. You know, our shop, we had about 4 different crews,
Uh-huh.
and the different work orders would come in, well, they'd send different crews to different jobs,
Uh-huh.
like that.
Incredible.
Do you know Mr. Bernard? I was in his crew,
Oh, really?
Walter Bernard,
Yeah, yeah.
Gahan, or whatever his
Yeah,
name. Okay, I was in his crew.
Yeah,
I
Mom
worked
called
under
him
him.
Bernard, but, yeah.
I worked under him. Wherever his group went out to do repair work, I was in his crew.
Oh, yeah. And it was carpentry, he was a carpenter.
Well, remember,
Yeah, he lived, I went to school with his son.
We'll talk to him sometime.
Yeah, well, he's not, he's
Oh.
dead now, but he built a little house on Delaney Road. Lived there where Bernie, J. Jacobs lived, remember? Bernie Jacobs owned it last, before, just side of Bobby and these families. The little old house, that was Walter.
Oh.
He built that house, as far as I know. I don't know when, but that's where him and his wife lived their whole life.
I liked him. He
Yeah,
was
he
a very nice man, treated me real
My mother
fine.
went to school with him, and
Yeah.
she always talked about him.
Most particularly, remember, he was left-handed.
Oh,
And left-handed people just, oh,
yeah.
they-
He
they
used
just do
to,
something to
I'm
me.
one.
How he handled his hammer and everything.
It looks
left-handed.
funny.
Oh, yeah,
Right-handed
that's
people, doesn't it?
You never thought of that.
To a right-hand person,
But
you'd
she
say,
always
well, that's
had
awful.
memories of him in school, and he loved to pick on the girls, and that's what she said. But he was a nice person.
And, you know, while I was out there and all thing, I seen a lot of soldiers being trained.
Oh,
They
really?
had different areas. you
Yeah,
know, like
why
some
don't
of
you
these-
talk about that? What did you see when they were being
I
trained?
just seen them, their training, do a lot of marching, you know. I
Right.
think that Camp Wallace was a field artillery, which is also just the infantry.
Right, right.
So
You saw them with the rifles?
I saw them with the rifles.
Did you ever
I
see
saw
the
'em-
target practice? Or?
Yeah, I saw them on the rifle range. I don't know where that's located. But that'd have to be way off from everything.
Yeah. See, that's what,
Somewhere.
they wouldn't have taken a picture of that, is what has been told to me. A lot of that would not, you know, for
Yeah.
this kind of picture.
I've seen them at the rifle range, and I've seen a lot of soldiers marching, and they had these big guns over there, you know, that they trained with. And
The anti-aircraft, did you ever see that? I have a picture of one.
Did some of those other ones, the group from California, tell us that they went to the beach down on the island?
Many of them
and
have
did,
told me they went to-
gunnery.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
Several.
They want the full profit.
Mm-hmm.
Is some of that.
Mm-hmm.
They had
And
to.
when they marched, I understand from people that it was a huge area. They weren't just at Camp Wallace, they were like,
Oh, well, they did, I remember, and I was maybe 5, in 44, I was 5 years old, but I remember the soldiers, I guess they call it bivouac, they went
Yeah,
out on
right.
bivouac,
Right.
and they would come, I don't know where they went, around through the market,
Yeah,
and
they
came
came
back
through
by
the-
our
they came-
house.
I've seen them come through the market a lot of times. on
We
these,
always, and they would always stop and rest in our
Right.
front yard, and we
Yep.
would fill their canteens with water,
We had them
run back and forth.
right there, coming through the
did you
market.
ever talk to any of the soldiers? Or
I talked to some of them,
were they homesick?
yeah. Sure
What did
was.
they think of Texas?
Well, some of them liked it, some didn't like it. You
What
know,
didn't they like?
Ma'am,
What did they complain about?
the most particularly the weather, just like me.
Yeah,
about
and
the
the
mosquitoes?
That's what, mosquitoes couldn't get
Yeah, I
bad.
want you to describe what the mosquitoes were like at that time, because we've got a whole generation, including myself, that has no idea. I came here after DDT.
I remember mosquitoes in back in that time was bad, but also they didn't have a lot of water areas around here
Yeah,
to make
attract
mosquitoes,
Uh-huh.
breed mosquitoes in. They kind of was a particular
they
whatever.
would blow in off the marsh.
Yeah.
I've heard you could hear them. You could hear them,
Or
the sound of them.
You can hear them a lot of times buzzing when they're bad, when they're really bad, you know.
Somebody
Like-
told me even the soldiers wore nets at times. on camp.
Oh, yeah.
When they were bad.
Can you
it was-
describe that? They wore it on their face, or?
It was a net that came down over their head, you know, with real light material.
Uh-huh.
It just came around their shoulders.
Yeah, I
Came
remember
down around
seeing
their
them.
shoulders, over their head.
For
Where
some
they
reason.
could put their, have a helmet on over it.
Okay.
It didn't interfere with that.
Huh,
And at the times when they was that bad, they
must have been terrible.
Well, at the times it was.
I'm sure.
And the rain, and it rained all the time, I understand, and it was muddy out there.
Yeah, it was.
How do you know during the construction, do you know any, I understand some people in Hitchcock use their would rent out horses.
Yeah.
Tell me about the
I was-
horses rolling down
Well,
for.
ma'am, I don't know anything about the actual building part of Camp
No.
Wallace.
But do you remember people getting around on horseback out there at all?
I don't remember.
I guess that was the building, so that would have been a
I
little bit
think that would have
more-
been the
Mhm.
building, that's what I had, was just a slop hole,
Mhm. That's
mosquito
lot-
hole, nothing, the water, slop and rain. But all that was mostly done when I went there,
Uh-huh.
and so I don't know anything much
Because
about
I
that.
think right after, right,
You know, you got a picture over there up on the table there
Right,
that shows a big area of it being built there.
okay.
Of where they're building all these foundations and everything.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah,
Picture on that
right, hanging
picture over
up.
there.
Uh-huh. I know what I was gonna ask you. Somebody told me that trees were planted during that time. Would you know anything about
The
that?
only thing I think I told you for that, only trees I know about was what the soldiers planted
Yeah,
in their areas themselves.
and they planted them to make their own area look better,
Keep
basically.
their own area looking nice.
What kind of trees did they plant?
Mostly pine.
Mostly pine.
I'm trying to see it on the.
See, they wouldn't be on here either.
But we have a picture, I'll have to show it to you, but it shows some soldiers standing by some pine trees.
Probably a later picture.
But it basically, there weren't a lot of trees there. There were none. It was a prairie.
Lit.
Yes, it was a prairie.
Along the bayous, were there trees?
Yeah, there were some trees along
Mhm.
there in some areas.
Because that's the hardest thing for people to comprehend when they come back. They see all the trees out there. They
Yeah,
can't
there was
believe it's
trees,
the same place.